episode of Modern Mom, where we talk about being a mom in the 21st century. My name is Remy Kay. I'm a comedian and a certified life and relationship coach. I have with me today Dana Olney.
Hi, Remy.
Hello, Dana. She is a comedian, a former science teacher, and a mother of a almost 7-year-old. And you've
Yes,
been married for 9 years.
that's true. Yes.
Yes, yes, cool. So, how's everything going? How's the comedy scene been for you?
It's been great.
Yeah. When did
Yeah,
you start? When was your first mic?
almost 2 years ago. I went into it kind of slowly.
Hmm.
I was writing and then I tested my jokes out with family and friends. I even posted on the Moms Club, can I test out some jokes? Let's meet for a half hour.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Were
so
they comedians or you were just like, let me test jokes with you?
no, it was just a Pleasanton Moms Club.
Hmm.
So I met with a couple of moms, one mom at a restaurant, the other mom at her house. And,
Nice.
she was like holding her baby. And
Love that. I feel like people don't talk about this enough. Moms are so supportive,
yes,
right?
they are.
My life, I feel like low key changed when I started kind of making good mom friends.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like they'll have your back, I feel. Like it's like I remember I met you. I met you very early in my comedy start. I started like March 6th of 2023, I think. We first met at Caravan, which is a local mic, and I found out that you had a son similar age to my youngest daughter.
Uh-huh.
And like it was instant. Like we were just like, "Oh my gosh, yes, let's exchange numbers and,
Yeah.
kind of connect and stuff." And you're not super close to me either. You're like in the East Bay.
Right.
How long did it take you to get here today?
About an hour.
Like, I feel like whenever I've reached out to you,
Hmm.
you're always super supportive, you're super available. You've invited me to a writers group in East Bay.
Yes.
Yeah. How did you get introduced to that writers group?
I had a comedian friend just reach out and let me know what was happening, and so it was that simple.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
networking in comedy, I feel is so important.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Do
It's
you,
one of my favorite things because I have a lot of time to do it, and I'm a people person, so I really like it's half the reason why I do comedy is just the comedian friends that I have and just kind of connecting with those people.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, and when I came out with you, I was in the East Bay already,
Yeah.
and I was like, yeah, no, let's do this. Let's do this writers group. And that was really nice. Like it was so nice to have other people just give really constructive, loving feedback.
Yeah, for sure.
It was so cool, and I even got like a gig out of
Oh, yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Networking and comedy.
Networking and comedy. Yeah,
So
it's a
you're
big part of
married
it.
and
Yes.
you do comedy. So what is that like for you?
So I have sort of an arrangement with my husband. We have an agreement that I can go to an open mic once a week if I don't have a booked gig. Would like it if I'm taking a female with me. And I put it out there that I'm married. Like even in my set, say specifically like this: I'm married, and say a lot of jokes about my husband, and we're happily married for 9 years, together for 14.
Hmm.
So like and it makes him feel really comfortable when
Hmm.
I'm on stage and I'm talking about him and how happy we are.
Hmm.
So because he can be a little bit of the jealous kind,
Hmm.
and
Well, I mean,
um,
look at you. He should be.
well, thank you.
Margot Robbie. So funny thing.
You
So
too,
she
by the way.
forgot. Thank you so much.
Uh-huh.
I forgot when I put her name in my phone a year ago or
Yeah.
whatever, over a year ago. Apparently, I had put looks like Margot Robbie in my phone, and you called me today, and I like picked up the phone laughing because I'd
Yeah.
totally forgotten that I'd put that in there, and I
And I
just
had
thought that was so
forgotten
funny.
you said
Yeah,
that. That's so
it
funny.
is funny. It is funny, and like I think that was even before the Barbie movie or something.
Yeah, it was. It was before that.
That's so funny. So yeah, no, I don't blame him at all. Like I would want to keep a close eye on you too. But I have felt like it's surprising a little bit maybe, or maybe not. But considering the type of patriarch we live in,
Mm-hmm.
which is just, I mean, come on, like there's no denying it.
Yeah.
Denying it would be like denying climate change at this point, which I
Yeah.
know people have their opinion on. But it's like there in comedy, surprisingly, there is more respect than I thought there would be.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't have any expectations.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Just because I think that's as a woman, that's how you roll.
Yes.
You don't have expectations, but I feel like I mean, of course, there is kind of like you say, you set an expectation. You mentioned that you're
Sure.
married.
Yeah.
I have also kind of, limits and guards around like, how I approach. It's a
Mm,
professional setting to me.
yeah.
And there have been videos about comedy, what to do and what not to do.
Sure.
And I'm not going to go into details. Like if anybody's interested, you can look up some of these comedy, lessons or,
Right.
some of the classes. But I think that there are people who've done this before us, many people who have done this before us,
Mhm.
and they have a lot of good advice to give, including women, amazing women comedians.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I
Yeah.
think that, there's kind of a precedent set before us. So I think that's interesting. I love hearing your perspective because I'm not married.
Right.
And
Right.
I, have been single in the comedy scene for quite some time. And like again, like for me, I feel like I felt pretty safe, surprisingly safe.
Oh,
And
good.
women comedians just have each other's backs.
They do. They
Yeah.
do. And I'm happy to hear you say that
Yeah.
too. So, our agreement with my husband, it sort of implied that we take turns. Like he
Yeah.
gets to golf,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I stay home with our son.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have my comedy and he stays home with our son, you know?
Nice.
Like there's a lot of give and take
I think
between
that's
us.
important in marriage to
Yeah.
have give and take, to be a partnership, to be a team, and then also the fact that you have your hobby that you do and
Mhm.
he has his hobby that he does.
Yes.
Because I think that there's this misconceived notion about marriage
Sure.
and like just being together all the time.
I absolutely agree with that. And
Yeah,
like it really like keeps things fresh too.
nice.
You know, like we love, we miss each other when we're not together. So, we love seeing each other again.
That's so
It's
cute.
nice. It's
That's
really,
cute. You guys
thank
go on a
you.
date night?
Sometimes we do, although a lot of our date nights have turned into like supporting other comedians' shows.
How does he feel about that? Does he like going to comedy shows?
He does, yeah, he really does. And I like it too because then he gets to know my friends,
Nice.
and he gets familiar with their comedy and
Hmm.
we can bond over laughing at their jokes together.
Nice.
So
I love
that's
that. Oh my gosh, that's so supportive that he likes to come to your, join you in your world
yeah,
and
yeah,
be part of that,
for
get to know
sure.
your friends.
Which is funny that you say that because when we were dating, I decided I was going to secretly take private golf lessons.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I was going to surprise him. And he ended up finding out before I expected.
Hmm.
He found my mom's ancient golf clubs in my trunk.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah, and so he's like, "What are these?"
Yeah.
And I had to tell him.
So then did you play golf with him?
We have been to the range many times
Hmm.
together. And then we did do like on the golf course we did, a golf game
Hmm.
one time, but life got busy
Hmm.
and we're gonna get my son into golf lessons
Nice.
and he's excited about that and both of them.
Hmm.
And so like I think there'll be a lot more opportunities for me to like get on the course.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
soon.
so my oldest daughter takes golf
Oh,
lessons.
she does.
And
Okay.
I think my youngest also hits the range. They do it mostly with their father, so I get videos of it.
Yeah.
But my daughter apparently she's quite good, which I'm not surprised. I mean, she's so athletically, predisposed, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, sports with the kids, actually, I'm glad that you brought that up because that is one thing. Each year we kind of try to pick a sport. So I asked my daughters to pick one,
Okay.
and then we try that out to see how they like it. Now, both them did gymnastics last year.
Mm-hmm.
My oldest loved it, my youngest not so much.
Okay.
And so this year I was like, okay, what's up? Are we going back to gymnastics? What are we going to do?
Yeah.
And you'll never believe what my girl said.
What?
They said, we want to do sports, but we don't want to be away from you for
Oh,
that hour. I know, for that hour. Yeah,
that is so
yeah.
sweet.
Because they already kind of feel like they don't spend enough time with me. They're at school or they're with their dad or, and
Right.
so even though we do spend many days together, like they don't feel like we spend enough hours together.
Right.
And so their whole thing is we want to spend more time with you.
Yeah, yeah.
And so what we do is because I played and play a lot of sports and I do a lot of climbing and stuff. So we've started doing tennis in the mornings.
Oh my God, I love that.
So we go to school early
Yeah.
and they have, the wall ball wall.
Yeah.
We'll hit tennis balls against the wall. Yeah. And do some
Oh,
volleying and stuff. And even if it's 9 minutes in the morning, they're like, let's go.
ah,
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
awesome.
And they're getting really good,
Yeah,
like fast.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
It's so fun to be like a kid and just like, I'm gonna pick up this new sport.
Yeah, yeah.
And they just do it so well. I think I don't know. I did not. My dad used to take me at 6 in the morning
Uh-huh.
when I would go.
Mm-hmm.
And he's older now and
Yeah,
he has gone through some stuff and health things and now he's pretty healthy, but
sure.
like hitting the idea of hitting a tennis racket first thing in the morning is scary.
Right.
And so I wish I was, that young again. And
Yeah.
that, every time he said, let's go play tennis in the morning at 6 in the morning, I wish I'd just have jumped out of bed. If I could do it again, I would do it. I know,
Oh,
is that sad?
yeah.
Aren't I so
Yeah.
sentimental? Oh my gosh.
No, I think it's great. I feel like I've gotten way more sentimental in my older age. I'm 46, by the way.
Yeah.
And
40s club.
yeah,
Woo!
yeah. And so it's funny you bring that up about, sports and your dad and because my son plays soccer and my dad was my coach for many years
Mhm.
for soccer. Already spent a lot of time with my son, so I'm not like itching to coach, but I am involved, obviously. I take him to all his practices and games, and my husband is there for games. And yeah, no, it's a very positive thing. He
Right?
enjoys it. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that whole parental addition is like, I think kids love that. They love to know that their mom's there.
sure.
Yeah. So yeah, so we do that. And they swim and stuff and they do a lot of other things. But yeah, no, we definitely have fun with the sport. So now this year, that's what we're trying. We're trying, to do stuff with us. And of course, because I'm with them a lot,
Mm-hmm.
I get to do it with them almost every weekday in the
Yeah,
morning before school,
right.
which is super convenient. And then I don't have to deal with the traffic going to school in the morning
Yeah,
because we're already there. But yeah, so that's been kind of our new thing this year.
right. So you're very active athletically.
Yeah, I've before I had my oldest, Dahlia, I used to do yoga 3 days a week and I used to
Mhm.
do Pilates 2 days a week. And then after I had the kids, I slowed down. I actually was like, oh, this is so even though I was very active and athletic and I did a lot of yoga, U-jam, Pilates, I was under this preconceived notion that once you have kids, you stop exercising as a woman. I didn't even realize I had that.
Yeah, yeah,
And then I had my daughter and I stopped like just screeching halt,
right,
no exercise.
right.
And then I had my second daughter, also no exercise. And then I got in a car accident
Oh, yeah,
like 4 years ago.
right.
Yeah. And so after that, my whole left side of my body was in danger. Like I was
Mhm,
just, I needed a cortisone shot and all that.
mhm,
And so my PT had cleared me for lifting again.
uh-huh.
And I was so excited because honestly, I was suffering,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh,
And so
yeah.
I was excited. I got right back into the gym and I started, pumping and doing all the things. I hired a trainer for a few months and
Mhm.
started getting into my routine and stuff. And then I started this yoga certification. So yeah, no, I was active before I had the children. And then that accident kind of got me back into it because I did not want to suffer.
When I had my son, that was way more physical than I
Oh,
ever
really?
expected. Oh, yeah, the
Yeah.
constant picking up, burping,
Mm.
running after, it was just constant. And I wasn't used to it
Mm-hmm.
because I guess because, I had been in accidents and I didn't pick up exercise after just enough physical therapy to like get me okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that was tricky for me,
Mm-hmm. I
because
feel like I had the two, I back to back.
mhm.
And my kid's father would run after the oldest
Yeah.
while I was holding the youngest a lot.
Yeah.
And so I remember being in the mall and he's just running after my 1-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah.
And someone was just like, you've got your hands full. And I'm like close behind with the baby.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I can, relate to that.
Yes, it's way easier as they get older
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
I'm not with their father. And
Mhm.
so they're with their father some of the time, they're with me some of the time.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, like, how am I going to survive with my child without even, a day, right?
Yes.
And I'm telling you, I have learned to really embrace it
Yeah.
exactly how it is. Not being ready for anything. Like there are times where he's like, "Hey, can you take them this extra weekend, or can you, kind of switch weekends with me or whatever?"
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
definitely being able to, roll with that expectation.
Mhm.
But the time that we spend together is so easy to appreciate
Yeah.
when there's a break.
Yes. I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I get when he's at school.
Yeah, and also I love that your husband is really like, hey, do your comedy. I'll
Hmm.
watch him. When you're
Yeah.
watching him, I'll go to golf. Because you guys really get a break.
Yes.
And that's so cool he does that and that you do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
We we're really conscious and proactive, and we're really lucky and blessed that we're in a situation where I don't have to work, so
Mm,
I can um focus on living our lives to the fullest and
I
being
love that.
healthy, and like I just feel like life is so short
Hmm.
that you really want to make the most of every single moment and be present. And I know that's like overused, but like it's so true.
I mean, okay, so the other day, me and my girls went to Chinese restaurant for dinner,
Yeah.
and we got fortune cookies, and
Mhm.
my cookie said, "Live every day like it's your last."
Yeah.
And I'm like, huh, okay, so if today was my last day, what would I do? Well, I'd want to be snuggling with my girls.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? Why don't you guys, let's all sleep in my king size bed tonight.
Oh, that is so awesome. I love that.
And then, of
So
course, I didn't
sweet.
sleep very well.
Yes, of course.
But,
It was worth it.
it was worth it because it's
Yeah.
like, but that was such a cool reminder
Yes.
that like, hey, live every day like it's your last. Like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
you're right. I say this in this podcast so much. I often visit different age milestones of myself
Mhm.
to check in because I
Mhm.
feel like there's so much wisdom. Like when I was 15, like that girl had wisdom.
Yeah.
That 4-year-old girl, she was fun. Like she
Sure.
knew how to have fun.
Sure.
And then when I want to make a big decision,
Yeah.
that usually has to do with like, is it between, spending time with the kids or not?
Yeah.
I check in with like my deathbed self. Like, hey, what would you do? Like, what would you have done? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
I feel like subconsciously I do that a little bit too.
yeah,
But when you're talking about being 15 and younger ages, it made me think of not exactly what you said, but for me, it made me think of I I try to teach my son things that I wish I had someone to tell me
yeah,
when I was that age.
yes. Same. And I wish people were more honest with me at that age
Yeah,
and
me
not trying
too.
to hide things from me.
Yes,
And I did
exactly.
notice that my girls trust me.
Yes,
They know my mom's not going to sugarcoat. She's not going to lie to me.
right.
Yeah,
I even say things to him. I mean, I even said to him when he was 5 years old,
yeah,
when you grow up and you have a girlfriend, she's
yeah,
not always going to be able to, spend as much time with you and give you as much attention as mommy. And
yeah,
that's okay,
yeah, yeah,
you know, because
yeah.
he's an only child. So
Oh,
I always think about that.
yeah. No, that's awesome. There's this woman on Instagram, actually. I really like her. Gosh, what's her name? Starts with a P. She's this Indian woman, and she has two boys.
Uh huh.
And so she talks about like, I teach my boys to cook so that they don't depend on their partner to cook for them.
Sure.
I teach my boys to keep themselves busy while I
Mhm.
get ready so that when their partner's getting ready, they're not bugging them asking when they're going to be done.
Yes.
I teach my
Yes.
boys how to respect, whatever, whatever.
Right.
And
Right.
like, I love that because it's like you could go through something and you can
Hmm.
choose to move on from it one or two ways. You can turn around and treat other people the way you were treated
Yes.
in a negative way, or you can say, you know what? I'm going to make sure that my boys learn differently.
Hmm.
My kids learn differently. That
Yes.
is the beauty, I feel, of especially like millennial Gen X parenting,
Yes.
is that we totally get to take it and grow from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
It's the beauty of self-awareness,
right.
you know? And I really give a lot of kudos to my husband because he's living the life that he's choosing his destiny.
But I also remember being a kid and like I didn't have access to a therapist at that time, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And I had one thing or two things, my pen and my journal.
Yes.
And I would just be journaling
Yeah.
all the time. When I grow up, I'm gonna,
Yeah.
do it this way and I'm gonna
That's
do things
wonderful.
differently and I'm gonna make sure my kids feel this way and all
Yeah.
these things.
That
And
is so
isn't
therapeutic.
isn't it?
It is. It really
Like,
is.
can you imagine being a child and having enough insight or enough whatever motivation
Hmm.
to just be like pen to paper,
Yeah, for sure.
right?
I use my notes on my phone
I love my notes on my phone.
a
You
lot.
could go through my texts and I don't care, but do not touch the notes on my
Yeah.
phone.
And I had confessed that I also use ChatGPT quite a bit for just talking through.
Totally. You are not the only one. You are not the only one. No, and honestly, like company owners do this.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I worked for a small company for a few months and he also would have conversations with ChatGPT and work it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Meta AI also, even though they're totally collecting our information so that
Yeah.
they can make whatever.
Whatever. Yeah, I
Whatever
have
they're
nothing
doing.
to hide, so I'm
Well, I mean,
like
honestly,
whatever.
like, I don't know. I think it's too fun to give up. Like,
Yeah.
I don't smoke cigarettes, let me keep my chat GPT.
Yeah, definitely. And I was gonna say, my husband told me that he heard that they were doing some kind of experiment or some kind of like run with AI a while back. Maybe they still do it, but the teenagers were using it for therapy and like advice,
Nice.
psychological advice.
That's kind of beautiful.
It is,
I had my journal, they have chat GPT. Oh,
which is
that's
lovely.
beautiful.
I know.
And sad.
Well, I guess. I don't know. I mean, as long as it's helping them through things,
Yeah,
because
I know.
there's a lot to go through
Yeah,
emotionally
as a teenager, oh my
as a
God.
teenager. Yeah, or even a preteen,
Yeah, no,
you
my
know?
my kids, oh my gosh. Some of the stuff that my daughters go through and I'm hearing and I see,
Yeah,
I'm so grateful that like I've always told my daughters, I'm like, tell me everything. Like
yeah,
just, I will have your back, I will support you. And apparently, I won't go into details, but someone did something and she, reacted.
yeah,
And when I heard the reaction first, because that's how our society works,
right,
right?
right,
I heard the reaction first and very I was like, okay, what happened prior that you reacted that way?
right.
And when she told me, I was like, I defend you 100%.
Yeah,
If someone comes up to me and says, "Hey, Dahlia did this, your daughter did this,"
yeah,
I'm like, "Well, this is what I heard happen."
sure.
And if that happened to me, I probably would have reacted the same way. It's unacceptable.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do know what you're saying.
And
I
she's
felt
8.
that way. I felt that way before with not necessarily, well, yeah, with my son and with other children,
Yeah.
you know. When I was teaching, I was supposed to, I was supposed to enforce certain guidelines or rules around, behaviors and, not
What grade were you teaching?
reacting in certain ways. Seventh and eighth.
Grade? Oh
Yes.
my gosh. Okay. Intense. No, those are intense ages.
Yes. And now that I have my own child, I feel way more protective and I want him to protect himself,
Right.
So like I don't know, like I just want him to be like armored with, like self-defense,
Hmm.
mechanisms or physical self-defense
Hmm.
tools. So I even put him in taekwondo when he
Hmm.
was 4.
Yeah, my kid's father put her in jujitsu.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So,
And she did karate when she was 4 also.
yeah.
She still has her sparring gloves.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, he was a little bit too young to wanna like keep going with it.
same. Same. 4 is young.
It is young.
Yeah,
It is very young. It was tricky for him.
right.
Uh,
And he's gonna be 7 now.
yes.
Does he want to try it again?
Uh, I get little moments where I think maybe.
Hmm.
Yeah. So we'll
It's
see.
kind of it's so difficult to be a parent from this perspective because I do see some parents and they're like, going to baseball on Monday and
Yeah.
taekwondo on Tuesday and Kumon on Wednesday and all these things.
Yes.
And like I don't do that because number one, I would just like I have already a schedule that I feel is a lot.
Yeah.
Number two, my kids want to spend time with me. They don't
Yes.
want to just be dumped from, one thing to a next.
Activity to the next. Yeah.
Exactly. If they want to do things, they want to do it with me. I mean, they'll happily go climbing with me and they'll play
Right.
tennis with me and they'll
Yes.
do homework with me or whatever. Um, and then I see these videos. There's this guy was like, "Oh, my childhood trauma all in one name," and it was Kumon.
Uh-huh. That's funny.
And so it's like, I don't wanna,
Do
it's
that.
a balance of like,
Mhm.
yes, of course I want to build them for their future. Of course I want to teach them those lessons.
Sure.
I also don't want to rob them of their childhood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like since I became an adult, like one my biggest priority besides love obviously is balance.
Hmm.
I'm always trying to strive for balance
Mhm.
in almost everything
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. It's
Um,
important.
it is very
And it's
important.
important lesson for them because
Yes,
otherwise, who am I raising? I'm going to raise some busybody
right.
who's just constantly like, I have to go to work and then I have to do this and I have to do that just for the
Yes.
sake of it.
Yeah.
And it's like now in my adulthood, I am a busy person. Like I, do the podcast and I have my business and I have all these things going on. And then
Hmm.
I'll play pickleball and I'll go climbing and I'll do these things, not because I have to,
Right.
but because I want to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's fun. And then when I'm not having fun anymore, I leave.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Like I was playing pickleball the other day, and it was like my second time really like playing in teams.
Hmm.
Right? I've like played, and I've been doing racket sports since I was. I mean, I had a racket in my hand before I had a pacifier in my hand. Like I was
Uh-huh.
playing tennis and table tennis and all that. And so pickleball's really picked up. And the
Okay.
cool thing about it, have you ever played?
Not really, no.
Okay, have you played table tennis?
Yes.
Okay, so it's like a table tennis in real life, like a huge table tennis, and you're on the table. Like that's what it feels like, basically,
Okay.
which is kind of cool. And so I was playing for like an hour and a half, and I was like, this is enough. I mean,
Yeah,
it was a 2 hour event,
sure.
and I was like, this is enough. I'm gonna go. And like people were like, really? Because they were having fun, and I exchanged numbers with people and stuff, and I've got a ton of pickleball partners now. But it's like, I was done for the day. I was like, this is my past my bedtime.
Yeah,
I like to go to bed early.
yeah,
I love doing sports and I love being active all
right.
day if I can. And so, if I'm done, I'm done. And same thing with comedy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
If I'm
When
being,
something's not fun
yeah,
anymore, if you're doing it for fun, if it's not fun anymore,
what's the point?
what's the point?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I
Which
think
is
that's
why
okay.
I take a lot of breaks with comedy
Yeah.
when it's feeling like it's not fun,
Yeah.
for sure.
I feel that. I was starting to get to the point where I felt like the person who was saying yes to gigs was
Hmm.
a different person than who showed up to the gigs.
Interesting.
So like I'd be on my way to the gig and I'm like, oh, why did I say
Yeah.
yes? I'm so mad at that girl who said yes.
Yes.
And so now like I think about when people post and say, hey, I'm looking for a comedian or whatever.
Yeah.
And part of me wants to say, yes, I can do it. And then the other part of me is like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna pull back. Like, maybe I don't have to say yes to every single thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree with that.
yeah.
But I also feel like it helps if you're really good at networking
Yeah.
and building relationships with comedians
Hmm.
and producers, you have that luxury of being able to not say yes every time.
Yeah, it's true. I'm running for
Scares me.
school board, and this comes up a lot.
Oh, I bet.
Safety. Oh, yeah. It's like, hey, how do we keep the kids safe?
Yeah.
Right? And
Hmm.
it's like, well, it's really comes down to individual, you mentioned it, the coping mechanisms.
Yes, preparing them.
Right.
Hmm.
The thing is, cutting it off at a crisis, never a good strategy.
Right. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Preparation, coping,
Yeah.
having that mental strength is
Hmm.
so underrated.
It is.
Like people talk about mental health a lot, but they don't talk about mental strength and mental coping,
Yes.
emotional coping. This is
Sure.
so important.
It is. It's very, very important.
My daughter, she found, unfortunately, like equivalent of my diary, it was like my box of anxieties.
Yeah.
And I'd been putting stuff in it for like a year.
Hmm.
Her little body couldn't handle it. She broke out in hives.
Oh,
I know.
really?
Isn't it heartbreaking?
Yeah.
Her little body couldn't. I'd explained it to her. I'm like, honey, this is something that, I'd been kind of accumulating over a year.
Yeah.
You read it all in 5 minutes, and
Um,
your little body was just not built for this.
yeah, yeah,
So let
sure.
it go. You don't have to fix me. Never your
Yes.
job to fix me.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Like this is helping. Like even though it doesn't feel like it, like you're seeing the other end of it.
Right.
But this,
Right.
just putting it in the box and stuff. And I hope that and they have their own like little anxiety boxes also.
Oh,
Yeah.
so cute. And that is so like helpful and healthy. I like that.
Yeah.
Anxiety box.
Right.
Yeah.
So anything that's just bothering me, I put in the anxiety box. And it actually trains your brain neurologically.
Hmm.
So it
Hmm.
trains your brain to learn like, okay, this is something that's too much for me right now.
Yeah.
Put it away.
I've gotten more sentimental about my godfather.
Hmm.
And I am not super close to my godmother at this time. I
Hmm.
was when I was younger, but I'm going to see my godfather and my step godmother who is they're both wonderful, and I bought my I bought my godfather a gift. He's my uncle.
Oh.
Sure. I'm not super religious myself. I did grow up kind of partially Catholic slash Protestant
Hmm.
because my parents wanted to expose us, and
Hmm.
my grandparents were religious, and I did go to Catholic high school.
Hmm.
But I'm kind of just trying to teach my son, like we're basically agnostic,
Hmm.
and like you said, like holistic.
Hmm.
So I'm basically educating my son. Like if he wants to watch a cartoon that comes on about Jesus and
Hmm.
his life
Hmm.
or Easter or whatever,
Hmm.
like I don't say no.
Right.
Like, but at the same time, I'm not pushing it either.
Right. Correct. No, same. No,
Yeah.
my kids actually pray, ironically. Like I don't think they've ever seen me. Maybe they've seen me pray once or twice, but my neighbors are Muslim,
Uh-huh.
and so they prayed with them a couple times, and then they pray with their grandparents sometimes. And I'm
Okay.
like, listen, you choose
Yes.
whatever works for you. If this
Yes.
works for you, you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you love it and you feel better, and I asked, so my parents were like, this is funny. So there's a lot of stories,
Mm-hmm.
historical stories in Islam. And some of them are a little scary.
Sure.
And I think when they were telling them to us, my parents were telling them to us, they were young parents at the time, obviously, but also they were so set in their whole, like, okay, we're going to share these stories as they were passed down to us.
Yeah.
They didn't stop to think, like, whoa, is this a scary story? Like,
Right. Right.
the story of Abraham and his son,
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
like that, right? And so don't worry, the mic does not pick up any of that background noise. Like
Okay.
it's so specific.
Okay.
And so they were starting to tell my kids stories, and my mom was like to my dad, like, should you tell that story? Should we go into this?
Right.
And I was like, listen, this is how I talk to them about it. And I
Yeah.
sat down with my kid and I was like, how do you feel when you pray? Because they
Uh-huh.
were like, oh, you should pray because of this, this, and this, and this.
Yeah.
I was like, how do you feel when you pray? What does your heart feel? She goes, I feel happy. I
Uh-huh.
go, amazing. Then you
Aw.
should do it. I was like, well, how does that make you feel? It makes me feel connected. I feel connected to my grandparents. I feel connected that there's something I can
Sure.
pray to. I'm like, amazing.
Yeah. Oh,
And as
that's
long as
nice.
you're feeling that feeling,
Mm-hmm.
do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's making you happy, do it.
Sure.
It makes you feel whole, amazing.
Yeah.
But I don't get into this whole do this or this will happen,
Right.
the
Right.
punishing God. Like, I remember having a fear
Yeah.
of, like, oh my gosh, there is a man in the sky waiting to punish me.
Yes. For sure.
That's terrible.
It is. Yeah.
And so now I was telling a friend this morning, I was working out, I was like, you're telling me that some being that created every single star in the sky, every single dust, every single speck sits here and is judging me
Yeah.
every minute of the day?
Yeah.
I think this being might have better things to do.
Right. Right. Right.
That's not to say that I'm not responsible to be my best self.
Sure.
And that's for me.
Yeah. And if they change their mind one day, they don't have to lose that feeling. It'll just morph into something else,
I love that.
right? Or it'll be part of them, but they'll still be okay.
Right.
They are free to change their minds and not feel like they've lost, something special in terms of like, their spirituality.
Yes.
Am I making sense?
No, 100%. I
Good.
think spirituality, I've had this conversation with many different people, and someone was saying, like, I don't believe the whole we're a spiritual being having a human experience.
Okay.
Have you heard that before? We're just
No,
spiritual beings having a human experience.
I don't recall hearing it, but I feel like I understand why someone might say that.
Yeah, like we're a spirit contained in this meat. There was a meme actually that was hilarious. It was like, imagine you were a ghost in a meat suit on a rock plummeting hundreds of thousands of miles through space around a fireball.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like you could do anything.
Sure. Sure. I know it's interesting how people have ways to describe things, that can really frame things in different ways.
Yeah. I just thought that was hilarious.
That is funny.
I don't know if I'm a ghost, but I do think that there's an essence, something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, we all have this essence
Mm-hmm.
and we get to feel joy.
Yes.
And you have to feel pain
Yes.
to feel joy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I try to explain that to my son
Yeah.
because he just wants to, play with his toys all the time or go to, amusement parks all the time. And, I'm
Yeah.
like, it's going to get boring after a while.
Right. Right. You could be doing the same thing every day,
Yeah.
but you're just chasing this feeling essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in turn, you can feel that feeling anywhere.
Yeah.
You can just decide, I'm going to feel
Yeah.
the same way I feel at the amusement park.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love that.
And but it does get a lot easier as you get older and more you have more experience under your belt and
It's true. Well, I
you're
think
wiser.
so. I just did this program. It's called Positive Intelligence.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to go in the whole thing. It was a 6 week program. There were a lot of lessons in it. But one thing that really stuck with me, and then I recently read The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer for my yoga class. Anyway,
Mhm.
two themes that were in this, throughout these two completely different programs by two completely different people. They talk about a movie. So
Mhm.
Michael Singer talks about it as imagine you're in the movies
Yeah.
and you're not just seeing and hearing, you're also tasting and feeling
Oh.
what the character. So that's your life.
Yeah.
Your life is this movie and you're
Interesting.
completely plugged into the movie.
Oh my gosh, I've had like feelings like that before.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that. That's
Right?
cool. Yeah.
And so two things. One is, and I actually did a Dharma talk on this from my first Dharma talk for my yoga class. And I was like, imagine right now, sit down and look at your life, whatever scene, whatever speed,
Yeah.
and imagine you're just watching it on a movie screen.
Yeah. And it can go kind of where you want it to go.
Well, exactly. Oh
Yeah.
my God, you just literally you just finished my thought. And then from the other program, he was saying, what if you were watching the movie of your life
Yeah.
and you knew, just like you know when you go to the movies, you knew the ending is going to be happy. You knew the ending was going to be the right ending for this movie,
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's powerful. It's very powerful.
right?
Mhm.
It's so sentimental. We're so sentimental right now.
Yeah. I have a question.
Yeah,
This is off topic, but
that's okay.
um did you ever feel like with comedy you would not have the guts to like get in front of a bunch of people and like try to make them laugh?
I don't know. That's a good question. So the first time I realized I was born to be a comedian of whatever level
Yeah.
was when I was 11 years old. I was in Girl Scouts.
Uh-huh.
And I knew I was joking around all the time.
Yeah.
I didn't notice other people noticed I was joking around all the time
Right.
until everyone had to write on a piece of paper one thing that described you.
Uh-huh.
So each girl, had their pot of papers, had their little bowl of papers,
Yeah.
and they one after another, picked out because we had to kind of go around and put, write something down on paper, put it in their little bowl.
Right.
And everything out of the bowl was you're funny, you're hilarious,
Oh.
you're hysterical, you're funny, just one after another.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I don't think there was any other description in there. No, really.
You're like, that's all you think of me?
No, really.
I'm
That was
funny?
the first time. I was 11 years old or 10.
Yeah.
I was 10 years old. That was the
Interesting.
first time I was like, I'm funny.
Yeah.
That's all my Girl Scout members would say about me
Right.
was you were hilarious. I mean, not just like, yeah, it was just like hilarious, hysterical,
Yeah.
funny. I can't stop laughing, whatever. So
Right.
that was the first time I realized I was funny.
That's really interesting. And
Yeah.
it's not that that was the only thing that they thought about you.
But
It's
that was
just
the first thing.
it was
What stood out.
it's what stood out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. But that's the first time I didn't before that. I mean, I'm 10.
Yeah.
Before that, I didn't even realize I was funny.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
didn't, and I knew people would laugh at my jokes. And it kind of runs in the family and runs in the family. Like my dad is funny.
Yeah.
He's hilarious. He's a little sarcastic funny, which I can be too.
Uh-huh.
And my uncle is hilarious. Like it runs in the family,
Right.
right? And so I remember my uncle, I can't do this because this is an English podcast, but he would talk in Bengali like an American. Like, there's this American born missionary person.
Yeah.
And when he first came to Bangladesh, he would speak in Bengali, perfect grammar,
Yeah.
but his accent was American.
Yes.
And so imagine speaking an Asian language in American accent, perfect American accent, but perfect grammar in whatever that language is.
Right, right.
I mean, he was hysterical. Like it
Oh,
was so
yeah.
funny.
I
So
can imagine.
yeah, so it kind of like runs in the family and like and I knew I wanted to do comedy for a long time, but it's like you fall under I don't know if this ever happened to you, but like you fall under the expectations of like I have to be an engineer. I have to
Sure.
go into high tech.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in Silicon Valley. Like,
Yeah.
I have to make money,
Right.
and so now I have to get the degrees. I have to get the
Right.
master's. So I did all of that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like,
And
okay,
those expectations for you might be different for someone else,
sure.
but we realize, I realize that like they exist, what I mean, for each family
Yeah,
in each sort of social situation, they
100%.
exist.
Yeah. And so my hack was fulfill all the expectations. Every single one. Do it.
Yeah.
Hit it. get married, get the degree, get the other degree, work in all the top companies, do it.
Yeah.
And now I get to do what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's
Yeah.
my turn. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And my kids get to see this version of me where I get to do what I want.
Yeah. And you are doing what you want.
Oh yeah.
And I love that.
Every day.
That's
It's
great.
cool. And I get to life one day at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And if I need to fulfill something else, I fulfill something else. Speaking of which, let me take a look because I know I have to meet a client, but I think that's not till later. It's 11:33. Like hanging out with you and spending time with you.
I know, me
Yeah.
too. I
Yeah.
love it.
And I love this pearl ensemble you have going on today.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're so classy.
Well, thank
You're
you.
like a classy Margot Robbie. Actually, now that I'm thinking, it's like a little bit of an insult, maybe.
An insult?
Saying Margot Robbie because you're like
Oh,
classy. You're like
no.
classy
I
and
think
beautiful.
I
Okay,
think
she's gorgeous.
classy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in her own way. I don't know. I'm not that familiar with what she's like outside the
I know.
movies.
That's true.
But yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
No, it's nice. It's a nice. I think women, we get this luxury of being able to kind of accessorize and
Yes.
be our own style and
Sure.
kind of express ourselves.
Express ourselves for sure.
It's an art.
It is. And I get really excited when people clean up. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I just like I honestly feel like most people clean up way better than they think they
Oh,
might.
100%.
Like it makes the biggest difference in terms of like just putting that best foot forward.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And their whole attitude
Oh, yeah.
changes. You know what I mean? Like it's so cute
Yeah.
and fun.
Yeah, it is fun. I like cleaning up. I did my yoga class and I'm like rolling up, no makeup with a high bun every day.
Yeah.
And it's fine. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not I feel very comfortable like that.
Yeah.
And sometimes more comfortable in a way because I get to kind of just be
Sure.
myself and I don't have to put up a facade or anything. And then on the last day we had to do our Dharma talk and I like did my hair
Yeah.
and I did my makeup. And
Yeah.
like especially the women, it's always a compliment when it's women.
Uh-huh.
Like they were like like you look amazing.
Yeah.
And I was like, thank you. Yeah, that's really sweet. But yeah, I love cleaning up because it's like it's more in a way more fun than being cleaned up all the time for me.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
for me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, that's what makes cleaning up so fun
Yeah.
when you have that contrast, of not always, getting all dressed up or
Every
gussied up
day.
or yeah.
Yeah.
But I also get excited when men do it too.
Do you?
Yeah,
Oh, cleaning up.
cleaning up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And not
Oh,
just
yeah.
my
No, when
husband.
men do it. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, my husband is so cute that like it doesn't take much.
Oh, yeah.
And he like, takes him 5 minutes. I'm so jealous.
I know, me too. No, no, it's
So unfair.
unfair. It's unfair. No, all they have to do is maybe shave a little bit.
Uh-huh. And my husband just puts a little
Shirt
fill
on.
in his hair. And
Yeah.
his
Oh my
shirt. He's
gosh.
like,
Can we talk about this for a second?
yes.
How little effort it takes for men to do their hair.
Oh, I know. It's just
Like
it's
they go
wrong.
from
It's
a
so
5
unfair.
to a 10
Yes.
with like a hand, like a finger full of gel, not even like a little bit of gel.
Yeah,
Just
I know.
and he's a star.
Totally.
It's
Totally.
annoying.
It is so annoying.
It is annoying, and they won't do it half the time.
Well, my husband's pretty good at
Good.
doing it consistently, but even when my guy friends do it, I'm just like, yes. Where was this guy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like last week.
Right.
I'm like, what's with all the complaints about not
Getting a date.
getting a date or
Right.
meeting a woman or the right woman? I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
if you did this
Yeah.
every
Day. Yeah.
we're putting in
Home run.
effort.
Yeah. I mean, people say that men are very uh aesthetic appreciation. They yeah.
Aesthetically minded. Yeah.
Right. Women are too.
Yes.
We are too. We like a good-looking man.
It's true. Like, if you're so interested in what a woman looks like, why aren't you putting in that time
And effort into your own looks.
into your own self?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
don't
agree.
understand that.
I don't either. I mean, I don't know. Is it a controlled? I don't know. What is it? What is this control thing or something? It's like, oh,
I don't know. And you know what else I like?
lazy?
I like smells.
Oh yeah, that's a big difference.
Like some people aren't into perfume or cologne, but when I walk by somebody who smells
It's
good,
like-
I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
It like
Yeah.
makes my day
Oh yeah, I
sometimes.
was playing pickleball with this woman and she passed me by. I was like, "Oh, you smell good."
Yeah.
And she left. I mean, obviously I wasn't being creepy. I was just like, okay,
Yeah,
you smell good."
definitely.
Also, you know what I started doing recently? I do kind of put on a spritz of perfume, but I started incorporating smells into my other parts of my self-care as well.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. I make my own moisturizer.
Really?
I've been making my own moisturizer for like a couple years now because I
That's
realized
neat.
I have very, very severe dry skin. It's brown skin, so it's very obvious when it's dry.
Hmm.
And I none of the moisturizer on the market would do it for me. I
Okay.
had to customize my own. Okay, and are
Sure.
you guys ready for the secret?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm ready.
All right. So it's part glycerin,
Mm-hmm.
part vitamin E,
Mm.
part essential oil,
Ooh,
and a little bit
okay.
of black seed oil.
All right.
That's my moisturizer. And then I mix the essential oils because you have to mix kind of, I don't want to call them masculine versus feminine scents, but let's call them sweet versus savory scents.
Okay.
So there's like a little sandalwood in there. There might be a tiny bit of citrus in there,
Yeah.
something sweet like a rose or something.
Mm-hmm.
It is the best smelling thing.
Yeah.
And I could totally forget to even put perfume on,
Uh-huh.
but that moisturizer smells so good.
Do people notice?
Yeah, they do.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love
And it
that.
just smells so clean also.
Yeah.
And I notice, honestly, which is in my opinion the most important part. Like I notice like I'm smelling good and it
Yeah.
feels good.
Yeah.
And the glycerin is the best moisturizer. The
Mm-hmm.
vitamin E is good for any scarring or anything. So I used to get freckles on my legs.
Yeah.
Like I mean just those little dots. And
Yeah.
I could not get rid of them. I was like, what do I do to get rid of these? The vitamin E fixed that, right? You would not believe it.
Oh my
I
gosh.
lived with these freckles for years, most of my adulthood. And then I discovered this, vitamin E, putting vitamin E in the moisturizer, clean them right up.
I'm gonna try that.
I'm telling you, vitamin E is magical. And the black seed oil is just good. It's just good for you. I even ingest some black seed oil every now and then. I'll take like a droplet of it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, as long as it's organic and pressed and all that. Yeah.
Right, right.
But yeah, so that's kind of what I do. I do my own moisturizer and change my. I remember I went to the doctor and I was like, I have really dry skin. What do I do?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, bathe in really cold water, which ironically I wouldn't do at the time. I do now. I was telling you I did a cold plunge today.
Uh-huh.
Did I tell you that?
I think you did.
Okay. So I did a cold plunge today. So I do that now, but she was like, bathe in cold water. Was not ready to do that at the time. Do this and this, use Eucerin cream. And I was like, cream is not match with me.
Right.
My body, like my skin reacts so poorly to cream. And so I was like, okay, well, I know my body better than to follow that advice.
Sure.
So I had to go on a discovery.
Yeah. So did you experiment a lot with different
So
mixes and concoctions?
that's a good question. The answer is yes. The answer is also, I knew from the beginning that glycerin was a match for me.
Mm-hmm.
So in Bangladesh, I'd gone on a visit to Bangladesh when I was 8 years old.
Uh-huh.
And my mom was like, oh my God, her, eczema and her dry skin.
Yeah.
And my aunts, because in like certain parts of Asia, they just have like the remedy just sitting in the counter or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And they were like, glycerin, she needs to be using glycerin. So I knew glycerin, but I use vegetable glycerin. There's different
Okay.
types. And so I knew that that was a match from the beginning.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I started with using bought oils. Like usually it's kind of, made, you buy them from those festivals and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was from Hawaii. It was a
Mm.
macadamia nut oil.
Ooh.
It was a good match. It
Did
was
it smell like macadamia nuts?
lavender.
Oh, lavender.
There was different flavors.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I started with that and then I started, kind of trying different things, coconut oil and stuff like that. And it
Yeah.
was all working.
Yeah.
And then I got my magic concoction.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that's what I
That's
use now.
super fun.
Yeah, but you were talking about smelling good, so
Yeah. I love smells.
what do you use, body soap or body wash?
Well, I use bar soap now because
Same.
I've gotten really into this anti-plastic thing.
Oh, good for you.
Thank
Even though
you.
my bar soap comes in a plastic, like a saran wrap.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. I mean, it's better. I feel like at least that's better than a bottle.
Fair.
Like I started a blog actually.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Oh
this
my God,
was
send me the link.
I will.
Yeah.
I have to get back to it. It's
hmm
been a while because I was not doing it for a few months, but yeah, I need to get back on it. It's called Plastic Free Planet, please.
Oh my gosh, I love
I
that.
will send it to you.
Please.
Yeah.
I love that. That's amazing. Actually, there's a apparently, according to when I did my certification, one of the classes I took, it was talking about carbon coaching.
Oh yeah.
And apparently, it's a type of coaching where you help people reduce their carbon footprint.
Oh nice.
Yeah. So it's something that's kind of, it's a thing. It's a niche.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love that blog. Send it to me, seriously.
I will, yeah. Especially since, like I worry about the oceans and I worry about microplastics and all this stuff. So,
It's a it's a legitimate concern.
yeah,
I also like buying clothes though sometimes.
I know. So do I.
Yeah.
So do I.
Yeah, it's a hard balance. But again, like you said, it's balance
It is
too.
balance. It
Yeah.
is balance. Like in fact, one of the first posts I did, blog, I mean, I talk about how like every blog I do is starts with the problem and solution.
Oh,
Like I
nice.
keep it real simple
Oh,
and
nice, nice.
short
I like that.
because I don't like to read, so I feel like people don't have that much time these days to read anyway. So my solution that day was I bought a coffee mug instead of using the paper mugs when I go to
Well, you
Starbucks
got
or
your cute
Pete's or
little cup
whatever.
here,
Yeah, I do. I
and I
do.
love that.
Thank
So
you.
cute.
So and but my point about it, I was like, I realized that the outside is made of plastic, and then I said it's baby steps.
Hmm.
Like I'm trying.
Right,
So you don't have to be like all or nothing to try to make a difference.
right. No, it's so true. You take one step at a time.
Yeah,
Take steps toward it.
exactly.
I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've stopped using plastic water bottles. I
Mhm.
actually didn't even realize I started doing it, but like I have reusable water bottles. My
Mhm.
girls have all reusable water bottles. They are
Mhm.
plastic still, but BPA free.
Right.
Just because the metal can be heavy and they could hurt themselves with it and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe I'm being a helicopter mom in that sense, but and then they we're working our way toward, and then I have water bottles. So we have been plastic free, water bottle plastic free
Right.
for, I didn't even realize it's been a few months.
That's great.
And I don't buy, in fact, I will not get a coffee at a coffee shop
Yeah.
unless I have my reusable cup with me.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
really great.
yeah. I
Good
have
for
to have my
you.
reusable cup. And if I don't, I'm like, oh, no coffee today.
Right.
But I still have this can thing going on.
Well,
This is pretty rare.
at least it's aluminum,
It is aluminum.
you
Yes.
know?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's, baby steps, like you said.
Right.
I love that. What inspired you to do the blog?
Well, one day I was putting my empty shampoo bottles in the trash can and I just felt disgusting. And it just like this feeling that came over me. And I think my son like saw them in the trash can and he was like, "Mama, you're not recycling those?" He's like, "But what about the oceans?" And I thought, "Oh my God." I'm like, "I need to get on this." So, like I said before, like I don't work right now, so I have the luxury of the time to do things like a blog about, no plastic and reducing plastic and whatever, reducing waste. So I researched, started the blog, made steps, and that's how it got started.
Nice.
Yeah. In fact, at first it seemed like it was almost better for the environment to put the plastic in the trash can, I found out. But today, after talking to ChatGPT a lot about this, it kept saying, like, I realize it's counterintuitive, but recycling those bottles is more helpful in California because they've been taking so many more steps
Hmm.
to help get those things recycled and they're reducing a lot more plastic use in general. So I was like, okay, because for a while, it was this thing where plastic bottles and things like that are not recycled typically in the
Yes.
United States. They're
Yes.
recycled overseas.
Oh
So
my gosh, I'm so glad that you brought this up. I heard they weren't even recycled overseas, they were incinerated.
yeah, well, most of it does not get recycled.
Right,
So what's happening to it? It's
right.
ending up in the oceans. It's ending up on the, land and incinerated and all that. So
Hmm.
I worried about that.
Yeah. But you're saying California's taking steps to get closer to.
Yeah, it being like, I don't know, getting resolved somehow if you do put it in the recycling.
Nice. Okay, that's good to know.
It
Yeah,
is.
it's scary to think that like, oh, I've been hearing since I was in school, recycle, reuse, reduce, right?
Yeah.
And recycling seemed like a solution.
Mhm.
And then I heard very recently, a couple years ago maybe, that
Mhm.
hey, it's actually not getting recycled at all.
Yeah.
It was going overseas and being incinerated, a lot of it.
Yeah.
But now that's not even happening because after COVID or something, like during COVID, they don't want to take the garbage anymore overseas.
Right. Right.
And that's costly too to move garbage across the
Yes,
sea.
it is. Yeah.
And how do we know it's not ending up in the sea? Give me a break. Have you seen, like, there is video. It's a joke about Shein, how your Shein order is getting to you.
Uh-huh.
And it's on this boat, this barge,
Right.
stacked with what are those metal containers?
Yeah.
Those huge metal containers that hook directly onto a truck.
Uh-huh.
And there's this thousands of these containers
Yeah.
on the barge, and it's undergoing the storm.
Yes.
And half of the containers are just falling into
It,
the ocean.
it's so true. Yeah, and but even when they end up at another country, if there's no room, they dump it in the
Right,
ocean.
right.
They just straight up dump it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so sad. Can you imagine if like China dropped off all of its plastic in the United States coast?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would be pissed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, how rude is that?
It's super rude.
I mean, even if there's like some sort of agreement, like still,
Yeah.
like
Don't dump it.
don't it's not manageable. If it's not manageable on our end, like I don't want to agree to that anymore. You know what
Right.
I mean? I don't know.
No, I agree.
It
No, this whole
disgusts
plastics
me.
thing, the fact that we've normalized using it to begin with. I mean, people are trying, I know, for spices and food and things, trying to bring their own containers
Yeah.
and measuring it out
Yeah.
and purchasing it at that way. So I know they do that a lot in Europe and they do it in Asia.
Yeah. I've been doing some of that.
Nice.
Yeah, like going to the farmers market and bringing my own bags
Yep.
or containers. They do that at Sprouts.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that even at some of the supermarkets with their over the counter foods.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely an option. I have gotten away from it a little bit, but I definitely want to get back to it. The only problem I found with that we need to find a solution for is that let's say for example you have this big giant like barrel of nuts
Mm-hmm.
and you scoop it up and you put it in your own container.
Mm-hmm.
Well, those nuts are not as fresh as
Right.
if they would, you can tell the difference
Right.
versus if they were in a sealed plastic bag.
I mean, but we're also there's a lot of like production of food in
Mhm.
the US
Mhm.
where we are just wasting so much of it.
Oh yeah,
And,
definitely.
when it could be, I mean, they talk about hungry people in Africa for some reason.
Yeah.
Everyone, is always putting on Africa, but there's hungry people right here. There are plenty of hungry,
Yes,
and
it's
there
true.
are some local, um, not markets, but like eateries or
Yeah.
even, Crumble, for example, I heard,
Mhm.
and some pizzerias, they will, at the end of the night, whatever's left over,
Mhm.
they will give it to people who come into the restaurant and ask for it right before
Okay.
closing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's really
And
awesome.
so, doing things like that, and Starbucks does something similar, where a
Mhm.
day later, any of their cake pops and stuff, they drop it off to, Ronald McDonald houses and
Right.
places like that.
That's great.
Yeah, and I think that, that's really important to realize that, it's a plastic issue, but it's also a waste issue
It is.
and an overproduction issue.
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
a food distribution issue.
right.
Somebody asked me if you had $1 million billion, what would be the first thing you would do with it? And I thought, well, I would put together a team of people that would try to solve the food distribution
Mm-hmm.
issue
Mm-hmm.
because we could feed a lot of people if we could figure that out.
I would stop construction immediately. Any construction, unnecessary construction that's not being done because of safety reasons,
Hmm.
halt
Yeah,
immediately.
yeah.
And any unused buildings
Hmm.
needs to be repurposed. And if it's not being utilized for their company, for example, or whatever,
Yeah,
it needs to be dedicated housing.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like that.
yeah. No, totally. I think if women ruled the world, we definitely have a different outcome.
Yeah,
We would not be seeing the level of waste that we're seeing now.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming out.
Well, thank you for having me, Rainey.
Yeah, this was amazing. What a great conversation. I'm glad that we went into environmental stuff because I think that's really important.
Well, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, especially when you have kids and you want grandkids and things
Yes.
like that. The earth is going to be fine, in my opinion.
I think so too.
We are going to be in trouble. That's my opinion. So yeah, but thanks so much for coming out. Hope to have you again.
Oh,
Would
yeah,
love
I'd
to
love
have you
to.
back. And thanks everybody for joining us on another
Yes.
episode of Modern Mom. We'll see you next time.
Bye. Thank you.